voted to send classified transcripts related to Brennan to the DOJ. The Justice Department had requested these documents. The case centers around whether Brennan lied to Congress about Russia meddling in the 2016 presidential election. Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee and Ohio Republican Congressman Jim Jordan joins me. Nice to see you, sir. And as far as this Arctic Frost investigation, what could happen? Tell me what could happen.
Well, I mean, my initial takeaway is it's always worse than we thought. It wasn't just a couple of people that they went and got the phone records for. It was pretty much everybody in D.C. who was somehow connected to the Republican Party, including a number of members of Congress itself. So we will see. We've done several referrals. We've referred Mr. Wyndham, who worked for Jack Smith. Arctic Frost then was merged into the special counsel's investigation. Mr. Wyndham was working on both of them. We referred him to the Justice Department for obstructing our investigation. We've been referred Cassidy Hutchinson, who we think lied multiple times to the January 6th committee. We referred her after we deposed Jack Smith and learned all about what was going on in his investigation, and then looked at what Cassidy Hutchinson said, and still the fact that he was looking at using her potentially as a witness if he ever got to court, which thank goodness he didn't. So we're on top of all that, but the real takeaway was it's always the one mistake we always make when we start these investigations is it's always worse than we thought. And of course, with Jack Smith and the number of phone records he got from members of Congress, a separate and equal branch of government, I think that demonstrates that principle.
I think what's most horrifying for me from all this test is the stuff about John Brennan, the former CIA director. That letter that he and 50 others, or 51 who signed it on October 19, 2020, right before the election, where they said basically the Hunter Biden laptop was a hoax. And I can't figure out, did they do it because they're just incompetent, those 51? And if they're incompetent, boy, that says a lot that our intel community of 51 is incompetent. Or do they do it because they're diabolical? And if it's diabolical, that's bad. But it's actually, what happens to these people? This should not have signed, and even Biden referenced that in his debate with then candidate President Trump or President Trump. To me, it's so, they've all gotten away with this.
Yeah, you referenced John Brennan right before I came on. John Brennan definitely lied to us. And he lied to us when we were deposing him about the very subject you raised, Greta, the letter that 51 former intel officials signed. The reason they did it wasn't that, they just didn't know and they thought. No, it was a political operation. Anthony Blinkin working with Mike Morrell put this all together, and they were out to stop President Trump in the 2020 when he was running for re-election. So this was a political operation. But what Brennan lied to us about when we were talking to him about that subject was he lied to us about the dossier clear back in 2016, and specifically how he used the dossier as the basis to change the intelligence community assessment. The intelligence community assessment initially in December of 2016 said there was no conspiracy between the Russians and Trump in the election. They didn't care who won. They changed that, and they used the dossier to change it a month later and say there was this connection between Trump and Russia. Completely made it up. The intelligence didn't support it. We even have an email where one of the CIA analysts says to Mr. Brennan, this doesn't add up. This doesn't make sense. We shouldn't use this. And Mr. Brennan's response was, yeah, but doesn't it ring true? He wanted to get President Trump. They were out to get it. So that's what took place back then.
Which brings me back, and you could even go back further, because the letter was October 19, 2020, and everybody knows everybody in this town, is that the FBI in December, right before that, about 9 months earlier, already had the laptop and knew that it was legitimate, and they could have made a phone call. But,
right.
Yeah, but the thing is that this is the town of no consequence. This is our intel community, 51 of them, and especially Brennan, the former CIA director. So a referral goes over to the Justice Department. Was it just sitting there? What's going to happen?
Well,
this is not an insignificant matter.
I think the Justice Department is maybe moving on Mr. Brennan, particularly in the Southern District of Florida, where they've actually now subpoenaed Jim Comey's. They've subpoenaed records from Jim Comey. We've referred Mr. Brennan for lying to us about the dossier in 2016 while we were deposing him about the issue you raised in 2020, the 51 former intel officials. So we've referred him. ODNI Director Gabbard has produced material that indicates Brennan, what he was up to back in 2016, and so has Mr. Ratcliffe. So now you have the intelligence community releasing transcripts of Brennan, the ODNI Director, the CIA Director, and the Judiciary Committee all saying this guy's got major problems, and ours was an actual criminal referral. So I do believe the Justice Department is looking at all this as this big conspiracy to undermine President Trump in his very first term. It all started in 2016. This was the beginning of it, and that's part of what they're looking at, I believe, in the Southern District of Florida. So I do think Mr. Brennan may in fact, be charged. We'll have to see.
We'll see what happens. But also, you mentioned, now just the listeners, that Antony Blinken, who was part of this operation for this letter, went on to be Secretary of State, which people in this town get rewarded oftentimes when they shouldn't. Chairman Jim Jordan, thank you, sir.
You bet, Greta. Thank you.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.